First of all, we would like to do roll call. So, is Julie here?
She's running late.
Oh, okay.
I got roll call.
Okay.
Very good.
That's okay. Thank you, Bethany. You will help us to cover the attendance, participation, roll call.
Okay. I'm gonna call out names. Mehdi Kanamlu. Okay. Eric Black,
Here.
Ying Chen. Farhad Chaudhry,
Here.
Don Davy. David Lala. Michael Echols is absent. Scott Gilbert.
Here, hello.
Good. Michael Hyland. Elaine Jerkowski,
Here.
Arash Kamai. See, yes. Sung Hee Lee,
Here.
Yuti, I know you are here.
Yeah.
Patrick, I know you are here. Stacy McKinney,
Here.
Kelly Mexon, believe I saw you online. Yep. Grant Miller.
Sure.
Oh. Amanda Pancrazio. Mike Phillip. Louise Kumar. Jeffrey Punske. I am here. Matt Krasowski. Okay. Lorelei Ritchie.
Here, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Syed Samadi. Oh, fantastic. Amber Pond. Julie Tate. Oh, she is running late. Sylvia Toms.
Got here.
Okay. Jennifer Walker.
This is Alicia Kermeans, proxy for her.
Oh, yes, sorry.
I can also be proxy for Robert Broomfield.
Lee Chang Wei,
Here.
Terry Watson. And Rachel Whaley.
Here.
Great, thank you.
So thank you so much, Bethany. Next item on our agenda, approve the minutes from March 21st. Before we have any motion, we would like to see any correction, any comments. I saw hands, notice. Pre-Kuma, do you have any question about minutes or something else? Louise? Okay. Do we have any question or comments about the minutes from March 21st? No correction? Or anyone to move it? So need second, and Bethany moved. Okay, we're going to vote just by hand show. Is that okay?
Yes.
So all in favor, please raise your hands electronically or physically here. Of the minutes, progress. There's how many hands? Four. 6, yes, seven hands here, now she was 8.
8 here.
So nice, okay.
15.
Okay. Any objection or opposed? Please put down your hands. Louise? And still there? Okay, good. So any objection or opposed on the minutes? No. So any abstention? Abstention, no. Okay, minutes approved. All right, the next item on the agenda, my report. Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, our March issues of faculty senator updates and FIY newsletter went out to all the faculty members at the end of March. Thanks are extended to Ms. Mike Bauman in the Chancellor's office and also Mr. George Reed in our constituency's office and Dr. Bethany Riedner and Dr. Ilan Jagovsky and Senator Julie Page for their timely and helpful team efforts. That means helping me with the newsletter. In addition, I have several business matters to report to you briefly. First, on March 23rd, I attended a panel discussion on how faculty members support underserved students. This panel was organized by Black Students Council. It is part of UST on campus. I know some of our senator and Dr. Jeffrey Ponsky was there too, on the panel too. Second, on March 29th, I had a meeting with Associate Chancellor Wendell Williams on students' recruitment, retention, and graduation rate. This is directly related to our faculty senator ad hoc committee's work on student success. Number three, on March 31st, as an observer, I attended the ad hoc group 3 or subcommittee 3's discussion on faculty quality, faculty compensation facilitated by the co-chair of Ms. Dr. Ilan Jagovsky and Dr. Chairman Bing. Fourth, or number 4, on April 3rd, I attended two meetings, actually two meetings to represent the faculty senator. One is the planning and training meeting for able active shooting and active shooting exercise or drill organized by EOC. Also, one of the constituencies heads, I attended the interview of the first candidate for the Chief Marketing Officer on April 3rd. And then on April 5th, we also interviewed the second candidate for that position. On April 7th and April 11th, we interviewed two candidates for the HR, Human Resources Officer, and as the Associate Vice Chancellor of HR to represent our faculty senator. Pretty much that's my report. Any question, comments? Thank you. Okay, if you have no question, no comments, then we're going to move to the next item on the agenda. And we're going to invite the Chancellor and two acting or interim provost. And first of all, I know Chancellor Nan is here. His video may not work. So Chancellor Nan, are you ready?
I am, and I apologize. I'm actually driving to Pinckneyville, so just can't put the camera on just yet. Hopefully, I can get back, but by then I'll probably be done with the comments. So, thank you. I'm here. I am here, Dr. Lee, and good afternoon to everyone.
So, could you give us an overview before we ask you any questions?
Yes, I can. I wasn't sure if you wanted me to pause there. So just very quick updates. Let me first start again by a good afternoon. And I know you're probably like me and finding it hard to believe that we are already in April. And it's starting to feel like it. Weather and the activities across campus, it's starting to feel like the semester is coming to an end here. We still have a few weeks to go. but hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe. A few quick updates. Our board meeting this month, we will take Dr. Cheryl Tucker, our new incoming provost, to the board for approval. So really excited about that. And actually, Dr. Tucker will be here on that day. So if you get a chance, if you want to stop by that meeting and say hello, she will be here. So excited about getting her here. And then obviously about a month or so after that, we'll have her here officially to take over those duties. So excited about that. Dr. Lee also mentioned two other searches that are pretty critical searches. Our chief marketing officer. We have some very good candidates for that position. Expect to actually have one identified as early as possibly this week. So we're getting a lot of good feedback that's still coming in. That's a critical spot there. Jim Potter is in that role now. This person will replace Jim, and we're really excited with the candidates that are here and even more excited to get the feedback. Another position that we see as very critical is the Associate Vice Chancellor position for Human Resources. So this will essentially be our Chief Human Resource Officer. And, you know, if I'm being honest here, of all the areas that we have right now, this is probably one of our, it's no knock on anyone in that role, but in terms of our controls, our business processes, how we hire, all of those areas, this is probably the area that needs a lot of work. And so the person coming in, we've got really good finalists in this pool as well. We utilize Wick Kiefer to help us attract some folks from places that we really feel like could easily transition into where we are. I think both of the candidates, one's from University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, the other is from Ohio University. So just really excited about what they bring in terms of their experience for this particular role. So really excited about that. We just last week returned from our Senate hearing. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. We first had our House hearing that went really well, and we just completed our Senate hearing, and that went well. And so again, I think the main theme is how can we ensure that we get the 5.5 million in resources and state appropriations for our institution. Obviously, the House and Senate have to agree to that, but that's exactly where we're planted in terms of what we'd like to see in that regard. So if you happen to run into any state reps or senators, if you need a quick elevator speech there, it's definitely increase the state appropriation because that's going to impact us directly. It's going to impact our employees and our ability to be able to do things like raises and any types of increases there. So really excited about that. In that board meeting, we do not have a tuition increase that we are proposing. So we will not be proposing a tuition increase for SIU Carbondale. We've been pretty flat for the last 5, 6 or so years in terms of that. On the fee side, we are proposing an increase not for on-campus students, but for online students who are taking courses fully online. Right now, a student that's on campus is paying about $120 per credit hour. That will not change and not be increased. An online student, though, is paying about $76 to $77, $78 per credit hour. We're talking about taking that up to $80 per credit hour, so a few bucks up. And the reason for that is, as you probably are reading, our transfer partnerships are picking up. Our schools that we're working with, our transfer students that we're trying to attract through Saluki Step Ahead and some other programs, but that requires some support, right? So in Susan Wegman's area, the SIU Extended Campus, the increase is going to go directly to support students who are taking those courses fully online. So that's a big reason for that increase. It's not the $120 mark, but it is about a $6 or $7 up from that $70 mark. So that will be something that we'll take to the board. Have met with students about that. Our student leaders have some support there as well. So we'll move that one forward. But that will be our only proposed increase for any student. And again, it's segmented to the fully online student that's there. You've heard a little bit about the active threat. I know that we have on the call some representatives from our police force, and I'm going to take the opportunity. I don't get to do this enough publicly. Our police force, they do an amazing job. I want to publicly thank them for protecting us, keeping our campus safe. Just last week, we had a pretty traumatic incident over outside the residential facility. What gets talked about a lot is the incident, but what doesn't get talked about is how many folks they actually apprehend. And pleased to report, I think the chief gave a report today, they've apprehended about 7 individuals from that altercation, some of which were off campus, folks who are not students that were here on campus. And so really hats off to our folks there and the work that they do and continue to do to keep us safe. The active threat piece, it's no secret that we're seeing episodes. Yesterday we saw Louisville, and we're seeing things almost every week about an active shooter or something that's had a traumatic event on whether it's a campus or a community. And for us, we've had this in the works for months, and it's another attempt for us to at least try and make sure we all know what it means to get an alert and what it means to actually be able to go through a scenario that may unfortunately have to prepare us for something that could happen here, and that's unfortunately, it's just part of what we are dealing with across the country. And so I'd rather for us to be at least somewhat prepared if in fact that happens here on our campus. So I know you will probably even have more words to come from our police force, and those folks are here. But I wanted to mention that a lot of communication on that. You'll get some text messages. I have to strongly encourage you to opt in to the go on SalukiNet, and there's a way on our emergency page that shows you how to do it. But if you opt in, that's going to be your best bet if you want to get those alerts to come into you. We're really pushing that here down the stretch, so everyone is at least getting some communication there because we want you to know about what's going on and what's happening. So you'll probably a little bit more about that later on. The final piece, commencement. I'm excited about our commencement coming up on May 13th. I think I have that date right, unless I'm mixing it up with the 12th. Maybe I've got to get my dates right. I'm moving too fast, but commencement there. I remember last year, and hats off to you, Dr. Lee, and others, but we had a very large showing of faculty attend our commencement. I want to personally encourage you, faculty, to come in. I say this every year, students 20 years from now, they remember a faculty member. They do not remember who the chancellor is up there doing the ceremony. So you've got a lot more clout than I do. And students seeing you there, I know it means a lot to them. And I really enjoy giving you guys a nice shout out there as we're going through the ceremony. So look forward to our commencement that will be here very shortly. I know that, Dr. Lee, I'll pause out and take any questions there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chancellor Nan. And we have time for maybe three questions or 2 or 3 questions. Okay, Sunita Mina.
Yeah. Hi, Chancellor. Grant Miller. I wanted to follow up on the first item that you had mentioned concerning tuition. A couple of years ago, you were gracious enough to entertain the issue that we have for students, and this was at the graduate level at the time, where if I'm taking 3 courses as a student, one of those happens to be face-to-face, but I've been primarily online. My entire semester is at a face-to-face tuition rate. So one course can bump that. As we are, at least in the School of Education, exploring some online undergraduate programs of study, the stakes become a bit higher because, as you might imagine, the student is not taking 9 hours, but maybe 15 or 18 hours. And so if a student gets out of sync with what they need to take for a program of study and don't have an online option, we have face-to-face options, but then that tuition for the student becomes 18 hours face-to-face even though they're just taking one online course. So I know that we weren't able to come up with much of a resolution last time for this, but as our online programs grow, or as we're trying to make options more flexible for our students, it is a reality that we're going to come into more and more. And as you might imagine, it's probably pretty disturbing for a student to see 18 hours of face-to-face tuition credit just for one face-to-face course they're taking out of their online program. So just to kind of keep on our radar as we continue to maybe problem solve that along the way.
Grant, very timely. We've had some discussions about, how do we segment that out and not penalize the students? So you're spot on. I think if this particular fee is approved, those discussions will heat up pretty quickly about how we categorize students and how we ensure that when they start those programs, they can expect to finish them at a rate that is not surprising or doesn't change as they're going through the program. So we'll keep that on the radar, definitely.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Chancellor Mann? Okay, we have Senator Chowdhury.
Hi, Chancellor Lane. This is Farhan Chaudhry. I've got a question about a news that I read recently about SIU Edwardsville getting $109 million for making improvements to their buildings and making a new building. This was announced by Governor Pritzker. So are we getting something similar, or is it just for SIU Edwardsville?
Yeah, every university has got what they call these ramp projects that are in the fold. We're no different. So our ramp project, or the biggest project that you're probably hearing from us, is the communication building. So that funding, obviously, that's finally been released to us. And even during this session, we're going back for more because of the inflationary cost. So it's typically for any university, and for SIU Edwardsville, it was just one of the projects that they had on their list of items that they probably submitted 10 years ago that has just now come through. So we have a list of our projects on there as well. There are a number of them, and I'll make sure I remember to get that list to you, but you can see through the years sort of what's been funded. And then actually what's still sitting on that list. So you'll get a lot of projects. We're no different than other universities. There are a lot of projects, quite frankly, on those lists that just sit there for a long time. And you're just starting to hear about, obviously, the governor. That was even some of the mention that he made in the state of the state of the Illinois address when he came out and got reappointed. It was really just to highlight some of those projects that are finally moving along. So, we continue to push for our projects here. We've been lucky on a few, but it all comes down to that funding source. The biggest project you'll hear about us, I didn't mention this a moment ago, I'm glad you brought it up, but will be our SIU Foundation building. Which you'll hear about a little bit during the board meeting. You'll hear a presentation about that building, about a 50,000 square foot facility that will sit where McAndrews Stadium sits right now, where it used to sit, rather, and all funded through the foundation. But for the university, having a front door welcome center, historical kind of a welcome center where we start our tours for our students, prospective students that are coming in. It'll be a nice addition to the front of campus, but you'll hear a little bit more about that, but that's more from a private source.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chancellor Mann. And we have another hand from Senator Maxson.
Yes, Chancellor, within the lines of Dr. Chowdhury, actually. So any update about the greenhouse? I saw the emails and Matt actually replied to that email. So does it mean that the greenhouse for the College of Ag, is it on the list or it's not on the list for this year?
Yeah, it should be on that same list. And that's that's actually, we thought that was going to move a little faster because of some other funds. I think you saw some of those exchanges via email. I think did that come from Matt Bauman?
Yeah,
Can you send
yes.
me a little more background there? Yeah. So that's an item that would be on that list as a project that we would want some assistance with funding. So yeah, that'd be one of them. It's definitely a high priority.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have time for one more question for Chancellor Nan, if you have. Otherwise, we're going to move to interim co-provost, Dr. Morgan, Dr. Morris there. Any question for Chancellor Nan? Okay, thank you so much, Chancellor Nan. Now, next we would like to invite Dr. Morgan, and also I know Dr. Morris is not here. And one attachment or document we sent to you about academic probation and suspension, and some of our senators sent me the comments. I'll pass it to the provost office. I shared with Mark, Dr. Mark Morris. So Dr. Morgan, do you have any update from provost office?
Yes, thank you, President Lee. Thank you for giving me a few moments. Good to see everybody. Happy afternoon. Just a few updates and then again, open it up for questions. In regard to that document, we are moving forward with a revision to our probation and suspension policy. One of the key changes is changing the name, getting rid of the phrase probation. That was actually a suggestion by our new incoming provost, Provost Tucker, in one of our first onboarding sessions, the need to change that terminology. Probation can be triggering for some folks and doesn't accurately reflect what we're trying to do. So as you saw in that document, we're really trying to extend the runway and to be on par with peer institutions or aspirant institutions by way of affording our students opportunities for success. So thank you for sending your feedback. We will be moving that forward through the process to get that officially approved and an official change in our policy. Piggybacking off of one of the topics of discussion by the Chancellor, the active threat exercise, that's an area that we're active in the academic affairs side. In particular, at this stage, we want to make sure all instructors, all of our faculty and our students are opted into the alert system. And so we're working very hard with the deans to make sure that each college and the respective schools within the colleges have all the information they need to try to ensure that all the faculty, the instructors that will be in the classroom, as well as the students are opted into the system. So everybody's up to speed and aware of what's going on, not just for, but certainly in time for the threat exercise. So that's an ongoing effort. We're at that time of year. We're about 18 weeks, give or take, from fall semester. So we're focused on enrollment, and our primary emphasis right now is on yielding, trying to make sure that we get students that applied and have been accepted to SIU, accept that offer of admission and actually register. Just this past week, students that have been accepted were notified that they could enroll. Students that qualify for registration without using a run number were notified that they could go ahead and register for the fall semester. And then we also informed students that do still need a run number, the mechanism for doing that. And we sent a video tutorial along those lines as well. The idea being the sooner we get students registered, the greater the likelihood that we'll see those students here in the fall. So again, an emphasis on yielding students. Along with that, we're trying to really target enrollment in a way that impacts Southern Illinois workforce. So we have a number of colleges engaged in new initiatives and partnerships designed to create opportunities for students to pursue occupational opportunities that really serve the Southern Illinois region. That's becoming an increasing focus and something that at the Dean's Council level, we will be talking about going forward, but several colleges have already targeted that by way of goals and potential opportunities. Lastly, we've begun the initial stages of onboarding Provost Tucker. Dr. Morse and I will still be in this role until she gets here on campus, but we're doing everything we can to prepare the office for the transition. We've had some conversations with Provost Tucker to be, and again, doing everything we can to make sure that when she steps into the office, everything's ready to go and ready for her to take charge. So that's where we're at. That's my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Morgan. We have time for one or two questions for interim co-provost, Dr. Morgan? Any hands, question in the room? Or well, no question. Thank you so much, Dr. Morgan, for your report. You represent the Provost Office. Really appreciate your informative, valuable information and update. So if we have no, sure, thank you. We're going to move to the next item on the agenda, and we have a special guest, Lieutenant House and Chief Newman, who will present, in fact, on violence prevention. So, are you ready, Lieutenant House?
We're ready. Thanks, Dr. Lee. We'll give this a whirl. This is the first time we've done it on this platform, so we'll see how it works. I'm Lieutenant Ryan House. I'm the administrative lieutenant here at the police department. This is Officer Kevin Cox, my disaster preparedness officer. So we'll give this a try here. Let me see what we've got. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. We'll start with, we're going to do this backwards. We're going to start with the video because we want to make sure that you see the video, and then we'll try to cut it down in the next 20 minutes or so. It's usually an hour presentation, so we're going to skip some slides here.
Ohio State University is home to historic landmarks and lifelong traditions.
Are you guys able to hear that as well?
This scenic campus could become the backdrop to a scene that happens all too often across.
Yes. Thank you.
Chances are you'll never face a situation like this one. But if you do, prepared. I'm Officer Adam Tabor with the OSU Police Division. Help you improve your chances of surviving an active shooter incident. Ohio State University Police train countless hours to be prepared for emergency situations such as this. Our #1 priority is to keep you safe. Survive an active shooter incident by remembering and planning ahead to take 3 important steps. Run, hide, fight. Active shooter or similar incident requires the campus community to stay safe. Our emergency management division will send what's called a Buckeye alert. These are often sent via text message as soon as possible after determining that a threat exists. A Buckeye alert will contain the most accurate information available at the time, but an active shooter situation evolves rapidly and known details may be limited. That is why it's important for you to remain observant and use your senses to all times. Counter an active shooter or receive a Buckeye alert affecting your area. The first and best option to survive is run. Get out. Quickly and safely evacuate the area. Out, do it. Scatter and run. Get as far away as you can. Once you're safe, call 911.
911, where's your emergency?
Make sure you tell the 911 operator, who may be located within the city's dispatch center, that you are on Ohio State's campus. Away should always be your first priority. But what happens if you hear gunshots and you are unable to get out? Reaction should be to hide. A room, lock the door. Look for something to barricade entry. Turn off lights. Silence your cell phone. The idea is to make it as hard as possible for the shooter to see you, find you, or get to you. And always spread out. Don't huddle together. That creates one easy target. Running isn't an option, and hiding isn't an option. There's one final reaction that you should only use as a last resort if confronted by the shooter. Fight. Find anything to use as a weapon. A fire extinguisher, a chair. Fighting back is a last resort, but if it's between you and the want you to survive. When preparing yourself mentally for this fight, remember something. Statistically, active shooters are apprehended or eliminated within the first 5 minutes of the incident. Once called, our officers will respond to stop the shooter. You only need to fight until they do, and that could be 10 seconds away, the most important 10 seconds of your life. It's free to think about. But an active shooter is something that we all need to be prepared for. Whether you're a student or a member of our faculty or staff, take time to know your surroundings. Know at least 2 exits out of your room and building. Take different routes into and out of your building to become familiar with every possible escape route. Look around in the room you're in right now. Find areas where you could hide or items you could use as weapons. 3 simple words could save lives. So remember, run, hide, fight.
Okay. I would like to mention that the Buckeye alert that they're referring to is the same as our rave alert. And I would once again reiterate that please have everyone opt into that. Okay. Like I said, we're going to move through this pretty fast because I don't have a whole lot of time. So we're interested most in preventing violence. If we can prevent violence before it occurs, that would be ideal. We don't want to have to continue to do these drills if we can prevent it. If violence should occur, even if you've thought about it once, what you would do, you'll save valuable time and perhaps save your life. So like the video said, if you're used to going to work one way, you take the same door, you take the same hallway, explore your building and see other ways to get in and out of the building. Educate staff, faculty, and students to help identify and deal with troubling behavior. Train and support threat assessment teams. We do have threat assessment teams on campus and they are used quite often. Encourage the reporting and sharing of information, provide strategies in surviving violent incidents. Most of these incidents that you probably know, there are warning signs, there's factors, somebody sent a text message, posted something on Facebook, and people just don't report that information. Comprehensive plan of action will address violent intruders on campus and maximize survivability of targets used by teaching options. Why report crimes? All victims are encouraged to report incidents to the police. Sooner a crime is reported, the sooner we can intervene, catch the offender, and stop the problem. Students can also get access to immediate medical care, counseling, and other services. Students or staff don't report a crime, the problems can escalate. So please call the police if there's ever an issue. Warning signs. Access to weapons, substance abuse, threats to harm self or others, symbolic violence, violence to pets. I know you were probably growing up, you always heard that serial killers had a tendency to do violence to pets, and that is actually true. So that is a warning sign, and mental illness. So let us know about any of those things if they come across them in your dealings with these other people. Pass through this one. I'm not gonna say much. Okay. Characteristics of a person in crisis: chronic depression or mood swings, perception of injustice, isolating behavior, hostility, low self-esteem, excuses, blaming, relationship issues, reduced motivation, health, hygiene, or substance abuse issues, and frequent allusions to violence. Now, we're not saying that each one of these incidents is a pathway to violence, but certainly when you start getting more than one of these or several of these, it does become a problem. Behavior: sudden changes in a person's behavior, decreased productivity, not just a Friday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, withdrawal from friends, sudden display of negative traits such as irritation, poor hygiene, or snapping or abusing fellow students. They talk about suicide or expression of actual veiled threats. And it could include stress from failed romantic relationships, family relationships, failing grades, or perceived injustice at the hands of peers or teachers. And like I said, every one of us has gone through one of these incidents before in our life. It's when they all start compounding on one another that it becomes a problem. What can you do? Never hesitate to call the police. Speak with a trusted colleague, student services staff, or HR staff. If you do decide to talk with the person, remain calm and patient. Actively listen. Communicate understanding, not agreement. Set clear behavior boundaries. Don't make promises you can't keep. We would implore you not to make promises you can't keep, because there are some issues that someone might tell you. We're mandated reporters and you have to call the police. So don't make promises that, I promise if you tell me I won't call the police. There may be instances where you have to contact the police. Violence is the result of an understandable and often discernible process. People just don't snap. By reporting the problem behavior to police, student services staff, or human resources staff. Evidence indicates that 93% of attackers considered, planned, and prepped in advance of the attack. Interviews reveal that 81% of attackers had actually discussed their plans with others prior to the attack. 81%. So if that would have been reported, maybe that 81% wouldn't have occurred. Perpetrator of violence usually is a person who collects injustices and a person for whom violence becomes the only possible recourse for their perceived grievances. I'm sure all of you are aware of FERPA. Just remember that FERPA is about educational records, not behavior. Please report any behavior that you see that might be a problem to the police. Interventions: mediation, counseling, disciplinary action, civil or criminal action. And I have personally been involved in situations where students were having issues, and we used all of those methods. Generally, the best predictor of future behavior is not past behavior, but how the person reacts to the intervention. So as quickly as we can break that violence continuum and get the individual help, usually we can prevent these acts from happening. Remember, you are not trained to assess the threats and not expected to do so. When in doubt about a behavior or concern, ask for advice or help. Please don't worry alone. If violence or threats are involved, call the police. We're going to go through the stats here. ALICE principles. ALICE stands for alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. We want to switch that up a little bit and say if you can evacuate, that's the best practice and what we want you to do if at all possible. Alert those around you, alert coworkers, alert authorities. Kevin and I have trained in many buildings on campus and elsewhere and tested it with gunshots. And if you're sitting in a cubicle and you have headphones on or something like that, and you're doing your work, a lot of times you can't even hear the gunshots, even a few rooms away, especially in the newer buildings that are more airtight. Lockdown, it's an excellent starting point. And when should it be locked? Before, during, or after? Ideally, it should be before the incident. Locked doors provide a time barrier. Locks can and have been defeated. Although we don't see that, mostly what we see is somebody just walking down a hallway, for instance, and just trying doors. A door that's open, they'll go in. A door that's locked, that they'll pass by. Barricade your doors. Take heavy items and place up against your door, or have some of the doors that pull out. You can sometimes take a stick or a 2x4 is what we have in the example, and brace that up against the door. And I'll show you a picture of that here in a second. Once lockdown is in effect, no one should be allowed into a secure room under any circumstances. Only open your door for uniformed personnel. And we would suggest that you don't open your door at all. I mean, nobody, you guys don't know me. If I stood at your door and said, hey, I'm Lieutenant House, I'm here to help, it could be somebody else. So we'll get you out. We have all the nice tools and stuff to break down doors, and we'll get you out at some point. Which is a better barricade for a door opening out? Obviously, that's going to be the one on the right. The one on the left, the person may fall and break their leg on the way in, but it's not going to stop them from opening the door. The one on the left, the one on the right is much better. It's a $3 2x4 and a $5 ratchet strap from Walmart. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of those doors left on campus, but there are ways you can look at your doors. There are ways you can secure them in that fashion. Heavy objects make good obstacles. Push whatever you can up against that door. Continuation of alert communication as real-time information as possible. We provide it by all means possible. Please, if you're on the phone with the police and you do have information, please stay on the phone for us. Use this information to make a single collective decision as the best option for survival. Be flexible because the situation will be dynamic and fluid. That's to say the least. Evacuate. Only 2% of violent intruder events have ever been by more than one person. And the reason that's up here is if you're in a group or by yourself and the shooter has passed your office or workspace, whatever, going the other way, it's relatively safe for you to evacuate the opposite way, as only 2% have been by more than one shooter. If he or she's inside, you get outside. Don't use your car to evacuate. There's going to be a lot of resources coming to the scene. The shooting that happened recently over in Carterville, there were 9 agencies that responded to that. We're going to have police from several jurisdictions, fire department, EMS coming to the scene. Please don't try to get in your car and leave. Not to mention, if we see you leaving, that might be an indication that we need to stop you. Reunification points established. I know with fire alarms, a lot of times they have those. Might want to think about reunification points, especially far away from the building. Get as far away as you can. Rifle shoots a long way. We saw in the Nashville shooting that the person had knocked out the windows and was beginning to engage officers on the ground from the 2nd floor. So please get as far away as you can, and preferably behind something that would stop or ricochet a bullet. Remove as many potential targets as you can. Counter. You can survive contact with an armed intruder. Police miss 70 to 80% of their shots in dynamic events. Active shooters are about 50%, and the reason for that is we're usually getting assaulted. People are shooting at us. They're trying to hit us with a car during those events. And the bad guy in an active shooter situation has already made up his mind what he's going to do. So bad guy's not usually a high skilled shooter. Engage in acts that will require a very high skill level. And those include noise. Make as much noise as you can. Noise is very distracting when you're trying to shoot. I can attest to it. Movement. A moving target's very hard to hit. So combine noise and movement and distance. A noisy target moving over a long distance is a very hard shot to make. And lastly, distractions. And distractions could be anything. Staplers, computers, chairs. It's very hard to hit your target when things are being thrown at you. What to do with the weapon? This is kind of hard to show on PowerPoint. If a group of you have subdued the bad guy and he's on the ground and the weapons land beside him, if you can do so safely, just leave it there. I've had a range of different answers to this about, can I take the weapon apart? Can I unload it? Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do with it, but you might need that weapon at some point. One thing I will caution you on, if you do use the weapon, remember that the police are responding to the scene for a person with a gun. If we encounter you with a gun, there's no way we can tell fast enough whether you're a bad guy or a good guy. So just keep that in mind. We advocate you leave it on the floor or move to a safe location, have somebody stand over it, whatever you think is best for you. First aid, we don't advocate that you give first aid. We're not going to give first aid. Our main objective is to eliminate the threat, and then we'll render first aid and let EMS. EMS won't even come into the scene until the scene is secure. Just really quickly on this one, this was Virginia Tech. Look at all the fatalities. The room that was barricaded, I will have you know, there were no killed and no wounded. Barricaded after the first time in room 207. Cho went in, shot his victims, left the room, and then tried to come back, and they barricaded the door and he could not get back in. So there's a very good case for barricading before the incident begins if you have the opportunity. It's our vision. If you need to reach out to us, there's our contact information. Feel free to give us a call. We've given it to 2,000 people so far. We'll come to your place and give it to you if you wish. We've gone to churches, Chicago, Springfield, about every 2 weeks. We're in Springfield doing one. If you have a need for us, please let us know. I would like to add.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant House. We may have a question for you.
Sure.
Is it okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Sure. We have Dr. Amber Pond.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just curious, you said you actually offer this service to churches, local churches?
We do if someone reaches out, sure, of course.
Okay, so was there a charge for this or would,
No.
okay, so we just contact the police department here on campus?
Ask for either Lieutenant House or Officer Kevin Cox.
All right, well, thank you.
Contact. The email's better. Mine's Ryan H at dps.siu.edu, and that's a better way to get a hold of me.
YNH?
No, RYANH, Ryan H.
Oh, Ryan H. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we have another question from Senator Wani.
Hi, thanks.
Hi.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more, and I apologize if I missed this, about what's going to happen on the day that we do the drill. Are we going to be leaving our classrooms, actively running, hiding, practicing all of that?
We're not supposed to release any information. I can tell you that it's going to involve only 3 buildings on campus. It's not going to be like a campus wide where everybody has to do something. So I'll have to leave it at that. We're not supposed to release any details just yet on it.
I understand. Thank you.
Where do you work? What building do you work? Painter?
Yeah.
You should be fine.
Thank you.
If I could add one thing, I want to talk about the 911 system. Everyone knows to call 911 when there is an emergency. At this time, we are not a 911 receiving facility. We were. So if anyone on campus dials 911, it's going to ring at the Carbondale Police Department or possibly the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. So if you are in need of assistance and you call 911 and get one of those locations, you need to let them know that you are on SIU campus and in such and such a building. When we were a 911 facility, we received 911 calls from Centralia, Harrisburg, I think Salem. It just depends on that 911 system. Usually they will go to the most local one, but sometimes there's, the odds that it could go somewhere else. So someone in Centralia is not going to know where Painter Hall is. So just make sure that you describe that you are on SIU Carbondale campus.
And if something like that happens too, literally there could be hundreds of calls to 911, and those calls will just continue to roll over to the next jurisdiction. So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for, I would say, Springfield to get 911 calls from down there during the incident. So.
Thank you. Is it okay, Lieutenant House, you're going to send the PowerPoint to us? We can pass to our senators.
We usually don't release the PowerPoint because we update it so often. But I'll talk with the chief and see what we can do.
Okay. Oh, okay. We have one more question here from Dr. Bethany Reader.
Sorry about that. Really quickly, so I've taught in classrooms on campus where the majority or if not all of the furniture is actually attached to the floor and immovable. And when I look around the room, there's not a lot of material that we could use to do things like barricade. In that instance, has it been my responsibility when I come to class to bring something with me in anticipation of an event like this? Or how would I feel like this brings up sort of a conundrum in this way to deal with it.
It does. I don't know what to tell you to bring with you is the only thing. We have had people before say that they were going to keep wasp spray at their desk. Apparently that burns your eyes. I'm going to test on Kevin here later, but that's we've had people ask about that. I mean, as far as you can, if depending on how the door opens, maybe a simple door stop would work for your particular door. They sell other items online. I mean, I don't think anybody would expect you to bring a 2x4 and a ratchet strap with you to class every day. That'd be kind of inconvenient, but hopefully I do know that there are some rooms that just don't have a lot of options as far as barricading.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for Lieutenant Howell? Well,
I have a question.
oh, go ahead, please.
Is there going to be some kind of debriefing after the incident to share with faculty, staff, students, you know, how we did and what we learned from the process and what we could do differently?
Yes, there will be a debrief. We did hire an outside consulting company to help us out with it. So yes, there will be a debrief, and the chancellor will decide how that's released.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I think we almost finished with the question for you, Lieutenant House. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you. All right, we're going to move to the next item on the agenda. We're going to have a report from different committees and executive committee. In fact, I skipped it. I already reported. Next one, election committee. They have Dr. Bethany.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen really fast. And everybody see that. Okay. Great, okay, so we are in the swing of general elections for Senate. You probably have gotten an email. This chart shows a couple of things. First is the seat allocation for 2023, 2024, so next year's Senate. It changes a little bit every year based on just how different units change, and it's based on total FTE per voting unit. If you have any questions, it's the Huntington Hill method, which is what the US Senate uses, and it's based on a fixed number of seats, which is what we have in the Senate. So if you have any questions about that math, you can certainly let me know. So we have the seat allocation, the senators that are at the end of their terms, senators that are leaving their term early for any reason. The current senators, how many seats to be filled? So current senators, those that will be remaining, the number of seats to be filled, which is actually pretty large this year. It's 17, two seats of which will be short term, serving through the end of 2024. We sent out our nomination at the end of last week, and currently we only have 5 nominees from the units that you see there. Our goal is to get enough nominees by this Thursday, so only in a couple of days. So we're going to send out an email reminder probably tomorrow morning. But please, if you can, encourage people in your unit to put their name or someone else's name with that other person's consent as a nomination. Would greatly appreciate it. All right. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Yes.
Just to clarify, so like, for example, the first row, there's 2 people ending the term, but only 1 seat to be filled?
Yes, because for the med school, they lost, well, I don't want to say lost, but they have 1 less seat than last year. So that means with 2 that are being retained in the med school.
So what's missing here is the current
number. Is
right?
last
So there's
year's.
4 now.
Yeah,
and
no,
then
yeah,
we'll get
yeah.
3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Bethany?
Bethany, just clarification. So the next line down, so current senators under School of Ed, you have 0.
Current continuing, is that what that means?
Yes, current continuing. So
Current.
their term will be the
Okay.
ending this.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I was not terribly clear.
Sure. And then people only run 2 consecutive terms, right?
Correct.
They're not qualified to.
Correct. So you can run 2 consecutive 3-year terms, then you have to take a break.
Right.
After that break, you can basically start over with 2 consecutive terms.
I'm on the nomination form, but I'm not qualified. Because I.
Right. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So I didn't cross-reference with everybody on the current current Senate. I did try to get rid of as many administrators as possible, and of course, as faculty leave and come, there are definitely names, and that list, those lists are not 100% accurate. So please keep that in mind. But thank you. Not easy, as you know.
You two are the experts.
And Grant had the worst of having to do this through
Reorganization.
reorg.
Is this now kind of quote unquote correcting for that? Because we had, with the last cycle of elections, we just said, you know, there are gonna be some units. Because I think instead of our 40, we had 42 senators.
Correct, yeah.
And so we are just going to naturally let that correct itself over time. So that's still the,
Yes.
we're on track for that.
We are definitely on track for that. I think the thing that has changed, and I think partly through reorg and partly through just people leaving and taking jobs elsewhere, is it should be about 1/3 of the Senate being up every year, so it should be about 10, and it's a much larger number than that. So that's something that I think I was hoping it would be a little bit more corrected this year, but that's something I think elections committee next year will take a look at. But yeah, we're back down to correct number.
Thank you. Any question for Bethany? Any more questions?
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to move to the Faculty Status Welfare Committee. I know Scott has to leave for teaching. Arash, do you have any update or report?
Someone.
Arash, Dr. Arash Komori, are you there? Okay, let's move to the next one. Undergraduate Education Policy Committee. We have Senator Jennifer Walker. Are you there?
For proxy.
Yeah, this is Alicia.
Okay.
Jen said there's nothing to report this month from the UEPC, but the committee will be meeting at the end of the month.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, the next report from Budget Committee. I know Mike could not make it. We have Senator Farhan Chowdhury. Any report?
Dr. Eichholz presented our findings in the last Faculty Senate, as you know. So we are now finalizing the final draft of our report, and that's what we are working right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the Budget Committee before we move on? Okay, Committee on Committee. We have co-chair Bobsky and Sunkidi, co-chairs.
Hello. So the big thing that we have been working on is our listing of university committees. And in the past, the last couple of years, we have waited to send this out till the fall, but there are committees that do meet over the summer. So Josh has been terrific in going through and identifying the committees and then the number of vacancies available. And he's given that to us to review. And so we will, by the end of the week, have this out to faculty and staff looking for volunteers for our university committees. And our hope is that we will be able to at least do a first cut of staffing before we adjourn as a faculty senate for the summer. And then any vacancies that are still remaining, we'll look at doing another call in the fall to fill. But I'm pretty optimistic because last year it seemed like many of the committees turned over and we had a number of vacancies, but this time around we have approximately 9 vacancies, and then we have our AI committee that I'm not sure how many seats we will have vacant for that committee. But anyway, so this is in process and that's what we have to report.
Thank you, Elaine. Anything to add? Something Dr. Sandy? Something?
LA covered everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any question for this committee before we move to governance committee? So governance committee, we have co-chairs, Patrick McGrath and Anita Maxson.
Yes, so the governance committee, we met by email, and we voted to yield our time this week to an important presentation by Ms. Mila Burton, who was on the Zoom call. So we would like to yield balance of our time to Ms. Burton.
Okay.
Hello,
Really,
can
Mila?
everyone hear me? I'm on Zoom.
Yes.
Okay, let me share my screen. Sorry. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Mila Burton and I'm a political science PhD student here at SIU. I also finished both my undergrad and my law degrees here, so I've been a Saluki for a pretty long time. I'm here to request that an ad hoc committee be created to rewrite the supervisory evaluative intimate relationship policy, which SIU calls it their consenting relationship policy. So I'm going to be doing a comparative analysis of SIU's policy alongside some other Illinois state universities, and my analysis includes Western, Eastern Illinois State, and the University of Illinois. And I do ask that if there are questions, please address them at the conclusion. I'm trying to get through a lot of information in a short amount of time. So here I am comparing the intimate supervisory evaluative relationship policies among the universities. If you do want to read these in more detail, I did send the links to be distributed to you all. So in comparing SIU's policy with those of other universities, I've highlighted areas where I've found disparities. If there is a green check, so I'll explain some of the less obvious sections or columns here. If there's a green check in the explicitly prohibits column, then the policy prohibits supervisory and evaluative relationships. A check mark in the complete immunity language section means that the policy included the words complete immunity. A check mark in the conflict management plan section indicates that the policies mandate conflict resolution plans. And these are required when there is a supervisory evaluative component to a relationship, and they're also used when an appropriate relationship is required to be reported. And these plans are made with supervisors, and they detail commitments to mitigate and eliminate conflicts of interest. And in that section, Eastern has a yellow dash, and that's because their policy does talk about making plans to address these conflicts, but the plans aren't explicitly defined in the policy. A check in the reporting options other than Title IX section means that there are administrative avenues for reporting inappropriate advances that fall outside of Title IX. The sexual harassment claim under Title IX can be kind of a high bar in a lot of instances. And those policies or administrative avenues, rather, they're explicitly stated in the policy. And in many of the policies, inappropriate advances can be addressed through a breach of professional conduct avenue. So if we look at the SIU row, unfortunately, we only have 2 checks, and they are both in areas that are absent from any other policy. The suggestive language of our policy is not working. Moves to initiate intimate relationships across a power differential are a real problem here at SIU. In the College of Liberal Arts in this academic year alone, I have been made aware of 6 instances where a supervisory or evaluative faculty member has made an unwelcome advance toward a student. The policy provides complete immunity based on the grounds of mutual consent. However, consent cannot fully attach when a supervisory evaluative relationship is present. Other policies I have reviewed explicitly state that consent is not a defense. Inherent to the nature of a power differential relationship, consent cannot fully attach due to the supervisor evaluative role that exists. Also, if mutual consent is proved, then the supervisor gets complete immunity. This is problematic, especially because it completely hinges on the proof of mutual consent. There is no other policy that mentions any kind of immunity in general. So here's a list of the university policies that I have ranked according to protections to those who are subject to supervision or evaluation. I have classified SIU's policy as the least protective policy out of the universities that I reviewed. So the point of this presentation is to show that our policy does need to be rewritten. Intimate supervisory evaluative relationships are a problem here at SIU. I speak from experience because I had a professor who was in an evaluative position over me act inappropriately towards me, but it wasn't to the level of sexual harassment under Title IX. Irrespective of intentions, it still ruined our professional relationship. I wondered if the support and praise they had given me for my research was earned, or if it was instead for a non-professional reason. After a scholarship recommendation they were supposed to write wasn't turned in, I wondered, did they forget, or is this because I didn't reciprocate their advance? I felt the weight of the power differential heavily. I felt like it had ruined academic chances I had at this university and in my department. I looked up this policy because I thought there's no way that this can be allowed, right? And I did end up telling my department, and I did have their full support. But I was told that the only way something could be done was if there was a successful sexual harassment claim. This professor at the time was teaching a class I was in. I chose to study at SIU for the specialization that this professor oversaw. Because of that experience, I changed my specialization and dropped the class I was taking. It completely changed the trajectory of my academic career. I was the one being negatively affected by something that I had no control over, and for the initiation of a relationship that I had no desire to be in. It was terrible, and I know that I'm not alone in this. This kind of behavior prevents SIU from having safe and effective work environments. Other universities, as we can see, have created policies to protect people who are subject to supervision and evaluation. I highly recommend that an ad hoc committee be created to rewrite SIU's current policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So in terms of the governance committee, we were thinking, as Ms. Burton mentioned, about a possible ad hoc committee that would be formed by the faculty senate and that could just simply look at this policy. And one of the things that I noted, at least, I had never seen the policy, and it has not been revised, I think, since 2001, I believe, was the last time the policy, it got my mind, 2001, so.
Yes.
So in terms of, in consideration of what Myron said today, I would like to introduce a resolution that I looked this up, Bethany, and I believe it's fine to introduce this resolution. I would like to make a motion to introduce the resolution for this ad hoc committee, because this is a motion that does not rescind or amend something previously adopted, or it does not discharge a committee. Therefore, we don't need previous notice of it. I sent the resolution to Josh. I'm sorry, Josh, I sent it to your email. Which is probably, I have it here. I don't know, should I send it to you, Ting? Do you want to pull it up just so everybody can see what it is? But obviously.
Did you CC to me?
I didn't. I just sent it to Josh. I can send it. It's very short.
Okay.
Yeah, I can just read. It says, so whereas SIU's current policy on consenting relationships has not been revised since 2001.
Can you share the screen?
I got it. He's got it. Oh, yeah. Therefore, be it resolved that the faculty senate formed an ad hoc committee to consider the possibility of revisions to that policy. This is a rather terse resolution, but also I will say that Robert's Rules of Order recommends terse resolutions. And that you not get into the reasons for the resolution in the body of the resolution itself, in case a senator might wish to vote for the resolution, but might not agree with one of the reasons propounded for introducing the resolution. So anyway, just a little Robert Rules of Order trivia. So here's the resolution. I would move that I think I can move to my own resolution, but I would need a second. So I would move that we adopt this. Again, this is just an ad hoc committee. And I don't specify who should be involved. I think it would be helpful to have graduate students, maybe a graduate student representative, an undergraduate student representative. One of the things I will say that was very illuminating to me that Ms. Burton brought up was the fact that this isn't just a faculty student issue. It can also be a graduate student, undergraduate student issue. Yeah, and where any power differential exists. So anyway, I will stop there to see if any discussion.
I second.
Okay, so Jeff, second, we're going to have open to discussion. Because we have resolution moved and Senator Jeffrey Pansky. Second, we are going to open for discussion. Okay, please.
Is there a reason you worded it to have a committee to decide if it needs to be done rather than a committee to fix it?
Just, I wrote this 30 minutes ago. So if you think that would be better, I'm happy, I'm certainly amenable to any revision.
I think it would be very quick to decide that, yeah, this isn't sufficient, but then they couldn't move on and make changes.
Oh,
unless we
I see.
have that as part of the resolution.
So a friendly amendment.
I propose a friendly amendment.
So what do we think? So we form an ad hoc committee to review and potentially update.
To review and. yeah.
They potentially update. I mean, they probably, like I said, will make updates, but
Absolutely.
potentially.
Okay, to review.
But just
And
review and.
revise. Okay, to review and.
And revise.
possibly revise. I don't.
Oh, it's
possibly-
review and revise. I wouldn't say possibly. I think we're making the motion that it's not.
I
okay
get-
to do.
I guess my only, that's fine. I guess my reason for adding possibly is I just don't like to dictate to a committee. It's my own sort of, I think the committee should decide what it wants to do. But I think you're right, that if we are saying that we want you to review it.
That's why we want to fix it.
So to review and revise the current, what did I say, the current policy? The current policy. On consent.
Yeah.
Review and revise.
You throw it up.
Oh, to review and revise that policy.
No, it's not good.
Judge, can you?
Is it revising or making recommendations for revision? Well, create a revision to be voted on.
Yeah, and part of the background in my mind here, and I don't know the answer to this question. I mean, Jeff, you might is, what's the sort of legal status of the 2001 document? It's the fact that the Senate produced. What's its status in relation to other, the CBA or other university?
So I can answer that to the best of my knowledge. This is university policy. We're dictated by university policy. The CBA is silent on like issues of sexual harassment beyond the disciplinary actions that can occur.
Okay.
So, but that's the same type of disciplinary action that can occur if you fail to go to your class, if you take a swing at your school director. You'd be under the, so there's no special carve out in the CBA for different, for different types of behaviors. It's just, it follows the standard disciplinary procedures.
So I changed this to review and revise that policy. If you can make that change, possibly Josh.
Can we actually revise it?
So we will
That
have
was
to.
my question.
That
Yeah,
was where I meant, I mean,
that's
just
what
have
I
the Senate write this policy and then the university just follows with the
Review and suggest.
recommendations.
I mean, I'm sure we're an advisory.
Exactly.
But
We are.
I would think
But I know you just.
the university, if we say, and this is sort of, I think they would have to consider it, and they would have to come back and say, no, you can't do this. And here's why, but here's what you could do. So my point being, is, even if they say this is beyond the fact that they said it, we would still start a conversation about this, and they would tell us, hopefully, how we could revise this.
How about to review and revise the policy for presentation to, or to be recommended.
Yeah.
Be approved.
Yeah.
You know,
To review and recommendations to the faculty senate.
yeah, I would say, why not?
To this, not the Senate, to the, whoever does the department.
I would say,
The Senate will have to approve the recommendation.
Yeah,
I don't think we should curb our power unless we have to this curb, you know,
yeah.
so to review, yeah. If we're gonna revise it.
Review and recommend revised versions. Revisions to that policy. There you go. Get rid of the word that. Take out the.
Revisions to the policy.
The only last thing that I would wonder about is because we're, believe it or not, nearing the end of the year, a big transition, right? So do you want to attach a specific committee to this to oversee it as far as like, you know, is it committee on committees who's going to help kind of form this? Is it the governance committee that's going to help direct this? Just somebody so that when that baton is passed, you know, next month, right?
Yeah.
Next month is that meeting. So, and they're going to be assigning committee members to standing committees and potentially to this one. So do you want to, just to help with that transition, have any kind of statement in there?
That's probably a good idea, and I worried about this because, I mean, the governance committee, I'm not down in faculty senate beginning in
Same here.
April, end of April, so.
Yeah.
I also might argue though that
Hmm.
some of our ad hoc committees don't really have an attachment to the standing committees, so like the ad hoc committee on university standards. Or, yeah, that is not connected to any one of these things. So I don't think that language needs to be there for the ad hoc committee to be able to do.
I was just worried about the transition that we have next month. So,
So if we have this ad hoc committee approved, the committee on committees will staff it, right? And it will exist.
Yeah.
there,
Oh, so, and it would be for the
Okay.
next Senate too, Elaine?
Yeah.
I think it's probably fine as it's.
Yeah, it would have to be for the next, Senate.
Exactly. Okay, so we have a friendly amendment here. So everybody can say it from Zoom. Okay, yes, Ms.
We have one more point to make.
Well, it's just a
Sure.
shame that the presentation wasn't for the new Senate because they may not understand.
So I wonder if Mila can do this same presentation again in May. Because we'll have different people, Mila, on this
17.
Senate and, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. We were really just pushing for the committee to be created to just prepare for next year, as if there's going to be graduate or undergraduate people on the committee that are going to have to be appointed as well, and probably civil service as well, just for the supervisory and evaluative cover.
So I think we can approve this now.
Yes.
But then if she could give the presentation one more time in May, then that whoever ends up on that committee will have further.
And I would just suggest again in September, because so many faculty are going to be gone by that
Well,
point. Then maybe
I think
wait till
Mila can also
September.
maybe just present it to the committee itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than drag her back to the Senate over and over again.
Just when when the committee receives its charge,
Yes.
it's introduced with the presentation.
It's not an easy thing always to talk about, so I think we have to respect.
Yes.
You know, and you can't just schedule her for.
I know.
I know, not even doing that. I know
It
that.
would be a shame for people in May to miss it.
No, I think it's a really good idea to ask her to please do it one more time for the committee once it's.
Okay, I think in what to materialize this, I think it might be better if I a little bit more detail in terms of formation of the committee. For example, how many members from senator, how many members from regular faculty members. Something, and then otherwise committee, they have no clue how to start the process.
Correct.
So now we have the idea here, we have the concept. So maybe we need one more discussion.
Well, I guess, and again, I don't want to constrain the committee. I feel like the committee is going to be able to understand how it should be composed when they meet. So, but I guess maybe we could say that we have faculty members and the committee should have.
Or maybe you can
members.
say both governance committee and faculty status welfare committee work on this.
I have just a general question for maybe the committee on committees. If given this charge, how would they proceed with the formation of this committee? I mean, do they require particular numbers to be associated with it, or could they form the committee just from this charge?
Yeah, and Sandy, what do you think?
So can you just repeat what you're thinking again? What you're suggesting?
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm asking a question, which is, how would the committee on committee, if this were the charge they receive, how would the committee on committees go about fulfilling the requirements of forming this ad hoc committee?
So I think it would be helpful to think through who we're going to ask. Like, should there be some students on this committee as well as faculty?
Yes.
And should there be scope for NTT as well as tenured faculty? So
Yeah.
once we have that, then we can make a call through Josh to the broader community and ask for volunteers. But I think that it's going to be important for us to have some sense of who should be on the committee and approximately how many people.
Yes, please.
And that's my question. So if we just give you this, you're saying this is not sufficient, so we should include more information about how many and from what areas.
Yeah, because sometimes, like, there have been some committees where we've had calls and there have been nobody who volunteers. We have to start calling people. But the last call we had, I know that we had something like 3 vacancies and we had 10 people who volunteered. So there are, it's helpful to know who should be comprising that committee. And, that's maybe something like, I'm just wondering, Mila, if you can go and do a little research from the other institutions and find out who sits on those committees.
Well, I will say that there isn't information on exactly how the policies were formed. I mean, most of the policies say that they were approved by the Board of Trustees, but we all know that is usually, especially with this kind of policy, it's usually not that simple,
right,
of a process. I do know that, speaking from a graduate student perspective and as well as my connections into the undergraduate student government, this is an issue that both the undergraduate and the graduate student government are very interested in. And so in terms of worrying about maybe filling student spaces, I doubt there's going to be trouble with that, because I know plenty of people who would like this policy to change and have been active in trying to make it change.
So are you thinking there should be like one rep from undergrad and one rep from grad student?
In my personal opinion, I do think that there should be reps from faculty, staff, civil service, graduate students, undergrads, and that everybody have the same amount of representatives, because this policy is a policy that does cover any supervisory and evaluative relationship. Okay. And that can range from faculty to student, or even like an RA, like an undergrad to undergrad, but an RA capacity, or like a housing person.
So then,
yeah, could you hold on a second? We have 2 hands here, Sherry, Senator Watson, then.
And this kind of
like in my experience, when I was chair of committee on committees and I was placing people, we're often placing people on committees that we don't give them the charge. We're just supplying the faculty component to that committee. And often we're supplying the an NTT representative and a tenure track representative, but the actual committee that is a broader campus committee gets its charge from another entity. It's not a faculty senate, committee. It's a committee that we supply faculty for. So, so we're getting into an area where I don't know if that's our role and whether we need to partner with other groups or something, but normally we are just supplying the faculty to committees that are broader in scope.
Actually, I do agree with Sherry.
Hold on. Khalid, we have two hands here.
Oh, okay.
Patrick, then Jeff.
So I was gonna propose a friendly amendment. I suppose my own. So we could say the committee of no more than 12 members shall be comprised of faculty, staff, and students in equal numbers.
Okay, so.
And so we would have undergraduates, graduates, staff, and faculty
Okay,
of equal representation.
so can you?
What about-
12 member, the faculty, staff, and students. And Jeff, you have a. Khalid?
Yeah, I was going to say that this committee should be very inclusive because we have, secretaries, we have, accountants, we have different people on campus. And unfortunately, if you count the faculty, there is only probably 500, tenure track faculty there, but there is about 3,000 administrators. So this policy should be inclusive and should include everybody who represent SIU. And that's going to make the job a little bit, complicated because we have to coordinate, between the faculty senate and maybe other entities within SIU.
Thank you. Rajawani? Rachel?
I can't come right now.
Rachel, sorry. Yes, I have to leave shortly. So I did want to just put out there, Elaine, I want to be on this committee. And so as a faculty center who saw Mila's presentation, I have that history. I'm staying on the faculty senate. So I fully support this and I do like the idea. I think we should go by Mila's recommendations of the members, faculty, tenure track, civil service, AP, and students. So I agree with the changes in this language. Just wanted to get that out there before, in case I have to leave, I vote for this resolution. But I can stay for a few more minutes.
Okay, thank you. Yunnan?
So I'm also wondering if we should include the ombudsperson on this committee. Simply because I think part of their role is to understand, organizationally, some of the kinds of dynamics that are happening, and they may be able to help facilitate some changes in policy in places that we may not.
Any administrator can be ex officio on campus. I think we do not put it on in the resolution.
Okay.
Resolution here. Thank you. Now, we have a friendly amendment here, which is much clearer than before. And we're going to, is it okay? We're going to close discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to, the questions on the table. I think it had a second. So
Yeah.
I move that.
So any more comments or?
I have one comment. What you mean with staff? Does it mean administrators or staff as staff? Because as I said before, this should include, everybody. You have, administrators that might be included in staff and not included in staff. And those, they have also supervisory rules,
Well, on campus, we have two type of staff. One is civil service, another is AP, administrative professional staff members. So, again, okay, they have two different constituencies on campus.
I might argue that this policy would apply to them as well. So just by saying staff, it can include both.
Yes.
And I think that is something that we want to do. So personally, I like the term just staff.
Okay, we have about 20 or 25 minutes left. We still have a few items on the agenda. So if we have no more discussion, we're going to ready to vote to either approve or disapprove or abstain on this resolution. Would that be okay?
I make the motion to approve. I make the motion to approve.
It was moved, so it was second. We're going to vote. Okay, so all in favor, raise up your hands electronically or physically in the room. Okay, so 15, 16.
Twenty-three.
33, okay. So anyone disapprove, oppose, please vote on your hands. Resh, would you like to, are you going to? Okay, good. So no one opposed. So any abstention? Okay, so approved, pass. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mina, and also Patrick and all the colleagues. Okay. So next one on the agenda, we're going to we ask Vice Chancellor of Research, Dr. Costa Fatsunis. Are you there?
I'm here. I've been here the whole time. And allow me to share my screen really quickly. I wanted to discuss with you, I hope you can see, there we go. The graduate admissions funnel by semester by week. As you can see, we are ahead of where we were last year. Last year, the same period of time, we had about 200 students less. But our admissions are really, really robust and 2.5 times more. If you look at the previous couple of weeks, there's been a very small movement in the number of applications. That happens this time of year. Students are waiting to hear from universities. We might see again a bump around June when they decide to reapply to us. A little bit about the VCR news. On April 3rd, we organized a Let's Talk Research workshop focusing on NSF. We had 6 panelists, 31 attendees, and we're planning a new workshop focusing on early career faculty awards on May 5th. The date might not be 5th. We're still trying to figure out when the panelists can join us. This is going to be face-to-face, and we will be inviting junior faculty, the early career faculty in the first 3 to 5 years of having a tenure track position. Today, we will announce 22 REACH award winners. As you may be familiar, REACH is an award that is given to undergraduate students to work with faculty on creative activities or research. It pays the students a stipend as well as $2,000 to be able to use consumables, travel, or anything else they need for their research. So I'm excited. We had almost 40 applicants, and the help of the faculty judges, we have selected 22. This Thursday, 2 days from today, I'd like to invite all of you to the forum of the Student Research and Creative Activities. We're going to have more than 150 graduate and undergraduate students from across the university present their work in posters. Some of you may have volunteered to be judges. If so, thank you so much. If not, consider judging. We still need judges. The first judging session is at 9:30, the next one at 11. And at 12:30, we will open it up to the public. It's in the Student Center, Art Gallery, and Renaissance Room. Please come, walk around during your lunchtime. It's going to be open from 12:30 to 3. It gives you enough time to come around and see the absolutely wonderful work that our graduate and undergraduate students do. This is sponsored by my office, Sigma Chi, University Honors Program, and the GPSC. Also at 3 o'clock, we're going to have a number of announcements for awards. The awards will be things like the Outstanding Thesis, Outstanding Dissertation Award, the REACH Award winners, the 3-minute thesis, and so on. So please take some time out of your busy schedule to honor the students and also their mentors. Last thing, on May 25th, we're scheduling a talk through Zoom by NSF Program Director, Dr. Deborah Rodriguez. She is rotating at NSF right now in the program for Partnership for Innovation, Mid-Career Advancement, and Bio-Inspired Programs. I'm looking forward to her talk, which is going to inform our faculty about NSF opportunities in general and very specifically in her program. So, Dr. Lee, this is my report. Entertain questions.
Much. Thank you. Any questions for Vice Chancellor Research, Dr. Tofanis? Okay, seems to me that no question.
I do have one question actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I was wondering whether there are going to be some programs similar for like grad students, like assistantships, you know, for grad students.
Yes,
where grad students, they can compete, you know, submitting, you know, their applications and be selected to receive an assistantship.
We have a number of programs that we ran in the fall when the majority of the graduate students join us. We had a program to show how to apply for assistantships or fellowships inside the university. Another one about federal fellowships. We're working also closely with the libraries to talk about formatting your thesis and dissertation, how to do referencing, and so on. So most of these programs are in the fall. The spring program that we ran was the 3-minute thesis, and most of the programs are in the fall. We'll have one more program from graduate students, which is going to be a write dissertation and thesis retreat. In other words, they will be for 4 hours. We'll put them in a room. They have no distractions, nothing like that. We're going to have assistance of our staff who can help them with their formatting of the thesis and dissertation. And it has proven very useful especially for TAs, to be able to focus just on writing for a few hours.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Because of time, thank you so much, Dr. Tofanis, and we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, and Faculty Advisory Council to IPHE, Dr. Li Changwang. Do you have any report briefly?
Oh, hi, good afternoon. Actually, there's no meeting was held since my last report in March. The next one will be in April in 2 weeks. So hopefully I will report back then. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Any question for her? No question. So we're going to invite Graduate Council representative, Dr. Tomas Bonesco.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Good afternoon. Graduate Council has its last meeting on April 6th, and there was one resolution approved. It was to recommend approval of the NUI for Master of Professional Accountancy. And that's it.
Very good. Any question for Dr. Tomas Bonesco?
I have a question. If your last meeting is going to be on April Did you say April 26th?
No, our last meeting,
Was April 6th?
yes, no,
When-
but I meant that's the meeting that we passed. We are going to have a meeting in May.
Okay, and what date will that be?
It will be the first Thursday in May.
Okay.
I don't know the date.
That's fine, that's fine. I'm only asking because there's a proposal coming forward from units in our college, and I wanted to, I thought there was a meeting in May, and I just wanted to be sure that was the case.
Yeah, there's going to be a meeting in May.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any more question for Dr. Onesco? Well, if not, we're going to move to the next item on the agenda, ILO Committee on Institutional Ranking and Education Quality. And I'm going to report briefly, and I will invite Dr. Inan Chokovsky to say a few more things. Currently, subcommittees, they are having their own subcommittee meetings. The first group is student success. I think they work on that. And the second group or second subcommittee on academic reputation and relationship. In fact, we're going to meet after this faculty senate meeting, 3:30. And then the third group, faculty quality and faculty compensation, that is subcommittee 3. They met last week and they may meet again. I think Dr. Inan Chokovsky is the co-chair or facilitator of that group. And Inan, you want to add something to this item?
You're muted, Elaine.
We cannot hear you.
I'm sorry, I thought my mic was on. So we have met and we have invited our salary compression group to come and talk with us about their report and findings. And that seems to be a big piece of what we'd like to integrate into some of what we do. We also have found information on how the university is looked at reporting faculty characteristics to the US World News Report. So we will be tackling those two pieces in our next subcommittee meeting. And we're in the process of planning another large meeting of the entire group sometime in April. Dr. Lee and I, that is.
Yeah, thank you. And the general group meeting will be held very soon, either next week or April 24th. So we're still in the middle of doing doodle pool. So we will give you an update after the meeting. Any questions, comments for us? Okay, so old business. No old business. Okay, any new business announcement? Yes,
It's just a question. Could you describe what will take place at our next meeting? I vaguely remember it in last year. But just
You mean the ILO committee?
No.
Faculty senator?
It's yes, in fact.
I think we're going to meet April 25th. And will be the first half of the meeting. We have a general report from each standing committee. The second half will have an election as usual. That will be our last meeting.
Right.
Actually, April.
The second half will have.
Actually, the last meeting will
be in May.
No, April.
The last meeting is April 25th. So
Yes,
we'll
yes.
have, it'll be in two sections. So the first section, the first hour will be goodbye to the previous Senate, and then the second hour will be
New Senate.
hello to the new Senate.
Yeah.
And normally, I believe the committees will give their like annual reports or something like that during the last meeting on the 23rd.
Are they still turning that into you in advance and we just look at that, or are they reading?
Well, I think you should practice, if I understand your question. And I mean, the first part, as I said, pretty much report, and then we appreciate those the leader who is going to leave.
Right. No. What I'm saying is you usually have them turn those in advance. And then we just see those instead of reading the reports at the meeting.
Well, you mean this,
So like UEPC, we would give you a report, but that report needs to be submitted to you in advance. And then that goes out to all of the faculty members in advance of the meeting, and they get to see that report instead of that report being read during the meeting.
well, I think what we do in two ways. Informally, the co-chair or the chair of each standing committee will give a brief summary. But in writing, by April 20th, they're going to give something to me and Josh. We're going to put it on the website. That's what we usually do. Because we only have 1 hour, I'm afraid we do not have time to cover all the reporting bits.
No, I agree. I just make sure that people are getting.
And absolutely, we have something in writing, put it on the website. Yeah.
Yeah, in the past, each committee has given just a really quick, this is what we did.
That's short. We have to do that.
Yes.
It's kind of routine, nothing.
Yeah.
And there may be some unfinished business too that maybe the committees are.
Yeah, for the new candidate for now. All right, any other announcement before we have a motion to wrap up the meeting? Okay, anyone to move to end of the meeting or join the meeting? Anyone second? Okay, second. So all in favor, raise your hand. Thank you so much. Okay,